Before we begin, the name is placed on the top right side of the screen. Surrounded by the chilling stillness of those lying dead in pools of blood, she sat frozen in disbelief. She was the only person alive there. She pleaded with the man, his head cradled in her lap, begging him to open his eyes. Lumina questions him why on earth did he save her. She knows it is useless, even if she says it now. She cannot claim to be his family now. She can't help but question him why despite her ignoring him, he risked his life for her. She is in denial because it is too late to regret. She is the eldest daughter of Count de Lanches, Lumina de Lanches, the product of a heartless and strategic marriage. That's her. Because of that, after her mother's funeral, her father welcomed the son into the family he fathered out of wedlock with his beloved mistress. As people's attention was focused on the favored son of the patriarch, she naturally became a scapegoat. She was treated as someone who did not belong to the family. Then one day, her father and her stepmother died in a carriage accident. As the mourners gathered for their parents' funeral, the siblings stood in solemn silence by the caskets, while nearby, whispers of the tragic carriage accident circulated, accompanied by rumors of the young son Endymion that he was the only survivor of the tragic accident. The people wondered who was going to take over the role of the head of the family, as both of them were still young. His uncle had told Lumina that she should be the head of the family. As the funeral was nearing its end, a man appeared claiming to be Lumina's maternal uncle. He claimed the true heir with real tradition was her. Not a little boy like Endymion. She looked hesitant, and the man could see. He questioned her about what would happen if she passed on the position of the head of the family like this. He reminded her they treated her as if she was invisible after her mother's death, and it's clear they were going to try to deal with her first now. Her uncle told her he did not want to see her niece treated unfairly, and he was saying it for her sake, so she should consider it. She understood what her uncle wanted to say, but told him it wasn't up to her to decide. However, the uncle asked her to just trust her and follow him and not to worry. He claimed this was only something she could do. His words lingered long in her mind after they were spoken. Lumina had been living trapped in the shadow of her deceased mother, being treated as a failure until now. Those words were enough to shake a 12-year-old child. Since then, many things had been lavished upon her like rewards. Money that seemed inexhaustible, overflowing attention, and the freedom to do anything. Taking advantage of our sudden windfall, her uncle Joseph took her to gambling dens, taking advantage of the moments when she couldn't get her bearings. What happened to her brother Endymion and how the family was faring, she had no time to worry about these things. She quickly fell into indulgence and pleasure as Joseph intended, and soon she began to suffer from hallucinations and became increasingly sensitive, unaware that she was destroying herself. Time passed quickly, and before she realized it, she became an adult. She screamed at the man to let go of her, but her uncle told them no, claiming she is the finest jewel of Lanches. She should be handled with care because what if the value gets lower if she gets scratched? She asks her uncle what he's doing. They agreed to a strategic marriage, just as he wanted. However, her uncle reminded Lumina she's a legion after all. Legion is a being that manifests powerful abilities beyond human limits. There is no apparent difference from an ordinary person, but changes in physical appearance occur when using abilities. Her uncle claimed she knew it, didn't she? Even his sister did not tell him such an important thing before dying. He further added, well, considering that Legion usually manifests their abilities before the age of 5. She is probably still in a dormant state, so she should be a powerless Legion for now. However, still it was fortunate for him that she was being sold for much more than average for this marriage. He asked her was she aware of the financial situation of their family. Wasn't she? She clenched the fabric of her dress tightly and questioned her uncle, so he was going to sell her out now. She asked if he thought he could do this to her and get away with it quietly. She reminded him she was the head of the family. However, Joseph revealed she was just a mere facade of her head. He told her it's been agreed upon by all the relatives. Even if she disappears, there will be no one to worry or care about her, so she doesn't need to worry about anything. He continued that even if she's powerless, her new master will treat her well. And by the way, she should not plan on dying in the meantime. She knows she needs to escape. She needs to get out of here right now. However, her strength hasn't returned since earlier. The evil uncle stated it was a really good idea to drug her all this time. It's quite amusing to see her unable to control even her body properly. He then instructed the men to handle her properly without any harm. She thought it's despair itself. What was happening to her all of a sudden? Was she going to die in vain like this? She wondered, what had she been living for until now? In this helpless darkness, the only one who came to save her was her brother. She could never confuse him for another person, even though the time has passed a lot. As they clasped hands and fled together, Endymion, his injured back exposed to her gaze, urgently whispered she should run away to a place where no one can ever find her. He believed with this his duty to protect her as a family was fulfilled. Upon his assertion of familial ties, she jolted out of her denial, certain at last that he was indeed her half-brother. The moment her life-saver lost his vitality, she awakened her ability as a healing legion. To think that the uncle she chose betrayed her and the brother whom she ignored saved her life. She resents herself for not being able to save him. If only she could turn back time, she would want to tell him not to save someone like her. The wounds she was absorbing to save Endymion are now hauntingly flooding back through her hands with pain. Just when she thought she would lose consciousness too. A voice commented, and to think that the legendary Healing Legion, which had only remained as a legend, actually exists. He states it seems she has been exposed to poison for so long that it is already irreversible. He also reveals her brother is already severely injured, but originally with his self-healing ability, he could have saved his own life. She is confused about what he is talking about. Moreover, he commented, if she had this level of power, she could have saved his son too. Although it is too late now. However, he seems to think about something and then questions she cannot still rest peacefully, right? He then asks her if she wants to live. A newfound fire ignites in her red eyes as she fixes a piercing gaze upon him, fueled by a fresh determination and unwavering purpose. She announces she wants to live. She wants to save Endymion, who lost his life because of her foolish choice, and to seek revenge on the man who betrayed her. The man fixes her with a piercing gaze as he states it looks like she still has determination in her eyes and declares that he will give her another chance at life, but in exchange he intends to have her heart. Give him her heart, he says. Her eyes widen in disbelief when a sharp slap is delivered across her cheek by her aunt, leaving her with a bruised cheek. She looks around in disbelief and realizes this is the funeral parlor. The guests around her gossip again, and this isn't she Mrs. Ballas, the ballerina. They wonder what she could have done to deserve this, but then decides to just leave it alone. She touches her bruised cheek and winces, wondering what on earth happened. Could it be a dream? She tries to recall the earlier events, but the last thing she remembers is that man's last words. She has no memory after that. Valen snaps her out of her thoughts. When she raises her voice at the kid, questioning her why she is daydreaming. She thinks the aunt who slaps you out of nowhere and the eyes pretending to be worried but actually just spectating. It's all like the same funeral when she was 12. She realizes there is no other possible outcome that makes sense other than she has returned back to the past. Valen claims a kid like her can only come to her senses only if she's hit and raises her hand with the intention to hit her again. However, before she can hit her, a slap across her face has halted her in her place. Her eyes, wide with astonishment, pivot to meet Lumina's gaze. Lumina takes to herself. She's making her laugh, but the expressions on her face are anything but. The woman shakes with anger and disbelief, and she can't form a sentence to ask what was that. Lumina states that she thought she would come to her senses if she was hit, but it seems like even Auntie needs to come to her senses. Lumina thinks if she has really gone back in time, she won't be obedient anymore. She knows Aunt Valen always hated her. She coveted the family fortune greedily. She believes she must have been involved in her death. She thinks she's not the only one. She glances at the relatives and thinks all the adults here were blinded by money. The life of an innocent girl. as if sending her to hell was just a walk in the park for them. She clenches her fists, thinking if they believe anyone would just accept being treated like that without a word. Valen says truly she is insane. Lumina agrees and laughs, stating if she knew she was crazy, she should have avoided her in advance. She decides such a dreadful life once is enough. The woman keeps blabbering nonsense, but she just ignores her. She looks around trying to find her brother, thinking he must be nearby. The woman asks her if she is even listening. Does she think she can live without her help? She keeps ignoring her, but Valen screams after her departing figure that even if she comes to her senses later and begs on her knees, they won't help her. She thinks of help from those dreadful beings. She doesn't need them. Her gaze falls on her brother, and she thinks Auntie needs to watch them live without her help until the end. She approaches him and can't help but think they finally meet. She calls his name, grabbing his attention. She comments it's not the best time for belated greetings, huh? She observes him, and he may seem mature for his age, but still, being only 10 years old and witnessing the accident, he must be deeply troubled. They were not the best parents to her, but they must have been exceptionally kind to Endymion. She offers him her hand to shake and states from now on, let's take care of themselves. She believes knowing each other's circumstances so well, pretending to be someone they are not will only lead to more suspicion. She believes they will get to know each other gradually. Even if it seems awkward right now, there's nothing they can do about it. While others may not know, but for Endymion, she will try her best to fulfill her role as family. He shakes her hand. When she's back in her attic, only then she believes it really is not a dream after all. She never thought she would come back to this attic. Her thoughts then drift to the man she last saw before she died. She did not know who he was back then because she was not in her right mind, but now she thinks she knows. He was the head of the Hart dynasty. Lucius von Hart is the most powerful legion in existence, someone who sits atop the aristocracy. And she doesn't know why he massacred the men there. She wonders why would someone like him be at that place. For Endymion to be there, she can understand since he might have heard from relatives that she was captured. However, for him it is hard to explain, but she remembers him saying that she could save his son. She wonders if it could be that he traveled back in time. She is not sure, but legions are special, so he might have done something with her heart. Maybe he knows about the future like her. No matter what variables there are. Fortunately, now she can freely manipulate healing legions, which she couldn't handle in the past. However, she decides first she needs to meet Duke Hart. She remembers in the past all sorts of rumors circulated in the casino. The day her identity was revealed was no different. She wasn't feeling well because her headaches had been getting worse lately. That's when she heard the people next to her talk about the heir to the Hart dukedom. He apparently went berserk and died. He was the Legion, and they believed his ability went berserk. This grabbed her attention. She thought Legion beings who manifest powerful abilities that exceed human limits. Anyone, whether noble or commoner, could become a Legion if their ability was activated. It is a special power that only a very few people awaken to, but once awakened, legions are required to register with the state and serve as weapons of war. The Duke of Hart was even famous among the legions. She had heard rumors that the Duke's son could no longer control his power. A man commented, to be devoured by his own power and die, what a terrible way to go. His friend stated that the more they use their power, the further they become from humans. He heard that even among legions, the strong ones often have physical or mental abnormalities. Even so, this was the first time they have seen a case where both father and son are legions, so they thought he would not go berserk. They believed in this way he was no different from a powerless legion. As her headache intensified, she clutched her head in agony, wondering what was unfolding, until suddenly she collapsed to the ground, succumbing to unconsciousness. Her friends, alarmed, glanced at her and were stunned to discover her true identity as a legend, as her beautiful wings unfurled before them. Back in the present, she thinks perhaps it must have entered her uncle's ears at that time. The Powerless Legion does not have the unique destructive ability, but it has all the external characteristics, so it was sometimes traded secretly at a high price to wealthy people who liked rare things. She was also sold off. She recalls her uncle stating that his sister died without telling him such an important secret. Lumina believes there is no way she would have said anything. Her mother, the only one who knew about her ability, did not even tell her father. She recalls going to her mother and telling her there were so many beautiful flowers blooming in the garden. However, her mother just tells her even when she was holding her, her father crawled into that filthy house. She revealed to him he was married again and asked her how he could do that. She came near her and asked her if she had seen the child his moment gave birth to, claiming he was the spitting image of him. She cupped her face with both of her hands and couldn't help but demand why did not she look like him. She then started sobbing. The present Lumina guesses in that situation maybe she wanted to hide the fact that there was something wrong with her daughter. Someone calls her name, causing her to scowl because this voice is her uncle. He smiles at her and claims to Lumina, "This is perfect timing, can she talk to her uncle for a bit?" She thinks you would definitely not. Even though the funeral was over, the relatives did not leave the mansion. They said they would stay for a few days more to mourn the deceased. But thinking about what happened in the past, she would be a fool to believe it. He asks her where she's going in such a hurry, and then looks at her dress and comments on the outfit, exclaiming it looks like she borrowed clothes from a passing beggar. She tries to convince herself to just endure it for a bit more. He then continues he expected it somewhat after his sister died, but it seems like the Count and his wife don't care about her at all. He further asks, is this the only clothes she has? Is she really that poor? He then says he has something he wants to talk to her about and offers for them to go to a boutique together. He asks her what she thinks. She exclaims she loves it. And is it really okay to go? Since he used her to his advantage in the past, but she doesn't say that part out aloud. She also thinks this time she should just suck him dry and leave him. In the boutique, she ends up deliberately getting a lot of expensive and pretty dresses at his expense. His jaw is almost on the floor thinking how much is this all? Joseph tries to say something, but she cuts him off asking is he sure he is not going overboard because of her. She makes a face and states that since she is with her uncle, she guesses she let her guard down and apologizes, but he says no need to be sorry. They are a family, she should think of it as easy. He thinks to himself if they can just grab this golden opportunity, they can swallow the family. The dresses are nothing, she exclaims. She is so happy as expected. He's the only one for her. She ponders that he should wake up from his dream and prepare to go bankrupt. Later, she exits from the back door, careful not to get caught. She has been here a few times, so she already knows where the back door is. She has also emptied her uncle's wallet. Now she needs to find the heart artifact before she gets caught. Rumor has it that it's somewhere around here. Suddenly, someone seizes her and declares that he has finally found her, questioning where she has been. She wonders intensely about the identity of the person holding her. He glances in a particular direction and then abruptly seizes her wrist again, pulling her towards him and informing her he is coming this way. It's Joseph looking around for her and shouting her name. He clenches his fist in frustration because he thought everything was fine since she was acting all high and mighty, but suddenly she ran away. His gaze then falls on the guy with black hair. He tries to hide her with his cloak and fixes his uncle with a look. The uncle freaks out and thinks this child looks very weird. He concludes there's no way Lumina would be with a kid like that and leaves. She asks him if he's gone. He replies it seems like it. He then instructs her not to be too flustered. Does she want to advertise that she's acting suspiciously? He further adds people might think she's a lost noble lady wandering around in that attire, doesn't she think? Never mind, he says and adds as soon as they part ways, she would not get caught right. She should be on her way then. She thinks he may have a haughty side, but in the end he's been helping her all along. With a cheerful smile adorning her face, she expresses she does not know what's going on, but she hopes everything goes well for him and expresses her gratitude for help. She thinks somehow this feels like a good start. She wonders why he's helping her. He can see from her expression she's holding back. He states if she wants to see him, she shouldn't sneak a glance but look at him confidently. If she has something to say, she should not hold back. She asks him why he helped her and is he being chased too. She frowns, thinking that he might be just trying not to get caught and just grabbed anyone. She then asks another question. Are they then in some kind of partnership? He places his hand on her mouth to quiet her and says yeah, it seems like they were in a similar situation, so he just helped. He inquires where she has been until now. She realizes so earlier he was just pretending to know her just to help her. She thanks him for the help and inquires where he is headed. Anywhere is his one-word response, but then he adds as long as he's away from that person. He takes off his cloak and puts it on her. Later, she steps into a shop. The man asks if she is looking for her parents. Unfortunately, coming here won't help her find them. Her eyes land on a Legion gauge. She knows it's something she won't see in an ordinary tavern, so it seems like she has come to the right place. She tells the man she is here to meet Mr. Can Calvados. It's the name of a brandy distilled from apples and known only to a few. However, it's also the alias of Duke Hart. He says Calvados if she wants to drink brandy, she should get her parents' permission first. She wonders if he's playing dumb for now. She states if she was an ordinary customer, she wouldn't address Brandy like a person. It seems like they don't manage the staff properly, huh? The man responds dryly he does not know where she picked up that charm, but he's not someone a young lady should meet. She questions what if she is Legion too? She questions what if she is a Legion too? His response is if she's a Legion, she should not come here. She should inform the royal court and follow the proper procedures. She states once again she came here to see Mr. Calvados because she doesn't want to reveal it to the royal court. She is a legend with healing abilities. She mutters she heard that he's interested in legions like her. This surprises the man who wonders who on earth leaked such information to this kid. She groans in frustration, wanting him to just trust her a little. She then places her hand on the gauge, he comments, touching that won't do her any good as with that alone, he has caught most scammers. To his astonishment, it emits such a powerful light that the entire shop glows in its radiance. His eyes widen in surprise and he is left speechless, thinking that is ridiculous. She then points at the gauge which is broken now. After a while, she is drinking tea, which is too sweet. She wonders if he thought she liked sweet things just because she's a kid. It was a complete change of attitude since he found out that she's a Legion. He even gave her this kind of tea. He told her not to go anywhere and wait for a moment. Seems like he has gone to meet Duke Hart, but she did not expect him to close the shop after her. The sound of footsteps grabs her attention and the Duke Hart enters. She wonders what's with those glasses he's wearing. He looks at her in surprise. She thinks could it be, does the Duke remember the past too? He bangs his head on the table, taking her off guard. But his question is unexpected. He questions where she got the cloak. She tells him she got it as a gift. He demands to know who gave it to her. She is surprised and wonders why she's being interrogated. The other man suggests the Duke. Maybe he should tone down the aggressive attitude. She's just a kid. She cannot be more than 10 years old. She corrects him that she is 12. She mentions they do not need to treat her like a child. However, they are still just giving her, she's just a child look. The Duke says fine. His son wears clothes of that size, so he just asked without thinking. She's taken off guard once again as she realizes that the Duke does not recognize her. She believes if he remembered her from the past, he would have either asked her to leave or would have made a direct request for a trade. The Hart Duke she saw then seemed really desperate to save his son. However, she thinks well, even if he doesn't remember her, the fact that their interests are aligned won't change. He tells her he has heard the gist of the story. Let's move to a different place first. Lumina prepares herself not to make any mistakes, because this person is the best weapon to destroy Joseph and his relatives. A moment later, they move to a private room to check her abilities. Lucius asks again he heard she is Legion with healing abilities. She replies. Yes, that's right. She did not know there was such a space in the back of the store. It's a place where not even a single breath can escape. He grabs her attention back by asking if she can show him her abilities now, as he injured himself to check her ability. She is confused and wonders if he's saying he wants to check it right away without any need for further explanation. She complies because, thinking of Endymion who was dying for her, it wasn't difficult to use her abilities. And maybe it's probably because she really never wanted to save someone before. To their surprise, his wound ends up healing. Lucius thinks the wound is really gone. That's an amazing ability. He says it seems that she transfers people's wounds to herself. She flinches because she got caught. She wonders if he by any chance saw her hand. He then inquires how much she can use her ability. She reveals she has not used it to its limit, but she can heal anyone, regardless of whether they are an ordinary person or a legion. His next question is, what about dead people? That causes the light in her eyes to dim, because if only her abilities were a little better, she would have been able to save her brother in her previous life. She clips she cannot. She ponders why he is staring at her like that. Is he wondering if her ability is closer to transfer than healing? She wipes her wound, thinking this kind of wound will heal quickly. She exclaims, even though she did not eat or grow up properly when she was young, she did not have any common scars because her wounds healed faster than others, even without applying ointment. Above all, he did not seem to care much about it in his previous life. He states he knows she has different abilities than others, but he doesn't understand why she came to him. He continues her abilities are unique and are quite greedy, but that's all she is, and she should go home for now. She is surprised he is going to just let her leave like that. She is aware if she backs down here, everything might fall apart. She needs to throw a bait that he cannot absolutely refuse. A bait that he can never ignore. She then asks, is he okay? Because the stronger the legion, the easier it is for them to be corrupted by their power. If they're unlucky, they might even die. She reveals her healing ability is not limited to wounds. She can even stop the Duke of Hearts from going berserk. Still, he has his expression schooled as he questions what she is talking about. She finally reveals she is the one who will save his son's life. She does not think he would be capable of doing such a reckless thing. This causes his eyes to widen in surprise. She believes he loves his son, does he not? She further comments so he knows what his son doesn't even know. An indifferent father would not know the exact size of his son's clothes, would he? She thinks, and because of that, he's someone who deserves to have their eyes closed on the threshold of death. He wants to know what she wants from him. She discloses she just wants to borrow the Duke's power until she comes of age. She reveals to them her parents recently passed away in a carriage accident. Since she is the only direct descendant left with her only younger brother, the relatives are fighting, dividing themselves into factions. She expresses her wish for her brother to inherit the family safely. He believes, so she set a deadline. She acknowledges it and says yes, by the time she comes of age, the hierarchy will be in place. So until then she wants him to be her guardian. He appears a little surprised, but has composed himself. With a smug expression on her face, she promises him she will make sure he never regrets choosing her. After meeting the Duke of Hearts, she returned safely to the Count's mansion. Throughout the day, she heard a lot of nagging from Joseph, who was constantly looking for her. But she barely paid attention with one ear, so she doesn't even remember what he said. She thinks Joseph nagging is not worth her time. She knocks at Endymion's door and informs him it's her and she's coming in. Endymion looks surprised and whispers sister. She enters and moves in his direction, asking is he feeling better? He assures her he is fine but wants to know what she is doing here. She looks at the gifts placed on the table. There are all sorts of flowers, toys that a normal 10-year-old boy would like, and even snacks. It looks like the relatives have been coming and going a lot. She tells him it seems like his relatives care a lot about him. He agrees and lets her know they visit him often. She thinks he's still as honest and naive as ever. Endymion hasn't changed since she first met him. Even in a situation like this where he has to be careful, he is the kind of child who would answer honestly and neatly. She wonders why she resented him even though he was like that. She then asks Endymion if he wants to be the head of the family. His lips part in surprise and his eyes widen. He looks confused and admits in a small voice he doesn't know. She is aware his relatives must have pushed him to become the head of the family. Hasn't he really thought about it? He says how can he? But she cuts him off, informing him she received the same offer. The relatives are busy calculating who to put forward as their puppet right now. She adds they must think that young children like them are easy to handle and therefore good targets. She believes in her previous life. Even if she was only 15, she would have been smart enough to ignore the relatives altogether. She lets him know she came to tell him that she will refuse all those offers, but he can do as he pleases. He wants to know why she is telling him this. When she meets his gaze, he refers to her as sister and asks if she hates him. This chapter starts with Lumina's brother asking her, doesn't she hate him? She thinks to herself that is right. She did not trust her family because there were no good memories. The stepmother who only scolded her when they met, the father who ignored her, and her mother who was only obsessed with her father. Moreover, she believes by the stepmother and relatives, she was destined to be stabbed in the back. But when the blindfold was removed, the moment when the light shone in the darkness, she doesn't think she will ever forget that. She replies to Endymion that she does not dislike him. She reminds him now they are the only real family left for each other in this world, so she decided not to hate him anymore. He asks her, doesn't she want to inherit father's estate? She lets him know, not really. She's not interested in that. She announces cheerfully that from now onwards she has resolved to be someone who knows moderation and integrity. He seems surprised. His eyes widen as he repeats moderation and integrity. While eating biscuits, she looks at her brother and wonders if it was because she has shown sincerity first. Her brother insists, as the daughter of La Rouche, it was only proper for her to live in a better room than the one she currently has. He suggests it would be better for her to move to her new room quickly. She wonders, when did he become so considerate thinking of her like that? That's when the maid enters and informs a guest has arrived. She tells Lumina she will help her with her change of clothes and requests her to come with her. She asks her who is that guest. The maid reveals it's Duke Hart, who is waiting to see her. She wants to tell Endymion not to worry even if he doesn't try. She will soon escape from the attic anyway. The delicious food is served on the table, while the servants carefully provide additional servings. Lumina surveys the people seated around the table and notes the very mismatched combination. Joseph plasters a fake smile on his face, greeting Lumina. Lumina bows in front of the Duke, officially greeting him. She also introduces herself as the eldest daughter of the La Rouche family. She states he has come to see her. He replies yes and tells her to come and sit down for now. Teresa smiles gracefully at the Duke and says she has never heard that the La Rouche family had any connection with him before. She also asks that she did not know he knew their Lumina. Lumina feels a wave of revulsion at the way the person uses their, as if they own her. Lumina observes that the Duke Hart is indeed remarkable, and even Joseph and Teresa are swayed by him. However, she had already expected that neither of them would miss such an opportunity. Her gaze then falls on a couple of boxes kept on the table. Those boxes emit such a strong presence since earlier, she wonders, what are they? The Duke notices what has caught her attention and follows her gaze. He tells her that these are gifts meant for her. She is taken aback and asks again to be sure for her. He says it seems like the memorial flowers are late, so he thought about what she might like and brought all these. Teresa intervenes, probably to keep their attention on her. She says, oh, he is showing so much care for their Lumina. Joseph then turns to Lumina and asks, how did she come to know the Duke of Hart? He further questions if perhaps she was acquainted through her birth mother, his sister. At that moment, the Duke announces that he is her guardian, causing a long silence to fall over the table. Once Joseph recovers from the shock, he questions Guardian all of a sudden. He states they have not heard anything about this from the Marquis and his wife. He lets them know the Hart family is not the one to be manipulated by a few words from a commoner. He also believes no matter when or how, it would not be strange for someone to become her guardian. He lets them know he would even want her to marry his son. This time, it's Lumina's turn to be shocked. Her face contorts in uncertainty and shock. She wonders if this is his intention. She corrects herself, no, before that, is it his intention to propose? Teresa, as usual, comments their Lumina is indeed a lovely child. Lumina forces herself to smile, convincing herself it's probably just a joke to flatter the others, but she was really taken aback. The Duke then mentions getting familiar with the environment in which the child grows up is also a duty as a guardian. He asks them if they can guide him to her room after the meal. Teresa nervously remarks that Lumina is a girl, so showing her the bedroom may be inappropriate. However, she is interrupted by Lumina, who insists she is comfortable with it, but acknowledges that the room might seem a bit humble for the Duke to view. This time, the Duke interjects, stating that he has no objections if Lumina is alright with it. Teresa shakes in anger, clenching her fist. She admits Lumina is a cunning one. Lumina is aware Teresa already knows how he will react when he sees her room. Teresa thinks if she even mentions being mistreated to the Duke, it is going to cause trouble for her for no reason. She decides she should take matters into her own hands. As he carefully looks around her room, the Duke questions if this is a dressing room. Or a playroom, perhaps? Lumina corrects him. No, it's a bedroom. Lumina can see those two are getting paler and paler. She knows they might be nervous about revealing signs of mistreatment. The stepmother who directly tormented her is already dead, but they are also the ones who knew the truth. Teresa fake smiles at Lumina and claims it looks like she's excited because Duke Hart offered to be her guardian, huh? She then turns to the Duke, claiming she needs to clarify first, this is supposed to be a punishment room and the bedrooms are separate. Confused, he waits for her to continue. She claims it is a place where they are sent briefly when a child does not listen. She says to Lumina she understands that she wants attention, but that doesn't mean she should lie. Lumina cannot help but laugh at that. Nervously, she calls out Lumina's name and wonders why Lumina is acting this way. Once Lumina recovers, she says she's sorry. It was because Auntie was lying so confidently and it was so funny, she couldn't help it. Teresa exclaims she said what she heard from the Countess. What is her problem? Lumina questions what she means by she just heard. If that is the case, then she should not jump to conclusions in front of the person involved. She then adds she doesn't know anything, does she? Teresa gasps, asking if she's saying she really lived here. Lumina takes. Now she's playing a game where she pretends she doesn't know. She shrugs it off, saying yes, she can see that if she just looks around the attic, there are signs of life here, even though it's a punishment room. Lumina then states she can understand as it's only natural that she does not know much about her since she never has been interested in her before. She declares, so she will be the one to guide from now on, as the Duke is her guest after all. As Lumina walks the Duke to his carriage, she expresses her gratitude for becoming her guardian. The Duke comments things were really in a mess, but she counters, where can there be a house without conditions? She believes now she must also fulfill her obligations and asks him when she can visit him. He tells her to do as she pleases. She is surprised and questions, really? She calculates the time left before Duke Hart's son dies. It is about 6 years. She happily thinks if so, they should also gradually prepare for revenge. She then tells him she has one more request. He asks what it is. She lets him know when she comes to see the Duke, she would like him to stay at the mansion for a few days. She needs time to check on his condition. She wants to know, is that okay? He wonders what if he says no, but ends up telling her to do as she pleases. A genuine smile appears on her face, and she expresses thank you and promises to bring him a gift too next time. This surprises the Duke. On his way back in the carriage, he thinks about her promise to get him a gift. His man asks him how was it. The Duke tells the man he quite liked his courage. He smiles and exclaims. He was thinking of making him the guardian anyway, since his ability is worth more than a fortune. The Duke mumbles under his breath that's right, and thinks legions due to their nature, often like humanity. However, the light that enveloped Lumina when she used her ability was so warm, as if it would melt away his frozen heart. It felt like he was a normal human being. He believes no legion could resist it. He also realizes she clearly understands her own value and knows when to retreat and when not to. She's a child who's ready to negotiate. He saw today that she also seemed to know how to act strongly when she needs to. However, he warns his captain not to forget the child is suspicious. The Duke closes his eyes, sighing deeply. He admits the child was lying. He recalls asking her if she has met a legion before, and she replied, "Yes, sir." He reminds the man that the child has only lived in the Count's mansion and has lived a life separated from the legion, so there is no way he could have met a legion. He also points out that it is strange the girl seems so well aware of his abilities. He feels like there are many things that don't add up in her story. The man replies he doesn't know if there's anything more to find here. The Duke declares he will investigate a little more. He replies okay, he would leave it to him this time too. He then leaves. In his place comes Brandon through the Appearance Transformation Legion. Brandon is his aide. Brandon states this is the first time he has met someone who still has something left after being completely stripped, so he's nervous. He has to try not to disappoint the Duke. Brandon then asks the Duke if his runaway carrion has come back home. The Duke honestly admits he doesn't really know because he doesn't even try to step on his shadow. Brandon believes it's because he's at the age where he's rebelling against his parents. Brandon, however, gulps when he thinks it could also be because of the trauma from the day of the massacre. Lumina's life has changed a lot since Duke Hart visited the Count's mansion. The most noticeable change is probably in the change in her room. It is actually a very familiar room to her. This is the room she had gotten when she had had Joseph's hand in her previous life. However, unlike her previous life where just the room was bigger, she now has a say in the mansion. She recalls how she talked to the relatives. She told them she did not know her parents were so virtuous. It's comforting to know that so many people are here to mourn them. However, she asked them, are they not busy? She learned from her parents that adults have adult responsibilities. Don't they think their parents would be unhappy if they put off their work and then just mourned them? Isn't that right? Thanks to the Duke, she was able to kick out the relatives who were staying in the mansion under the pretext of mourning. However, she reveals Joseph and Teresa, those two are still stubbornly holding out. Anyway, they are the representatives of the collateral branch, so it won't be easy to kick them out. There's a knock at the door, and then someone informs her, here is the bouquet she requested. Hearing the maid's voice, she reveals as the internal atmosphere became unstable, even the servants who used to ignore her started to act very kindly. The maid informs her that the flowers that the Duke gave her were decorated in the mansion as she said, and the seedlings were used to decorate the garden. She can see the maid seems very satisfied. She realizes unlike the stepmother the maid used to serve, her requests are simple, so she guesses the maid realized that the amount of work has decreased significantly. She's also aware most of the maids are anxious that they could not get close to her. She thanks Samantha for always being by her side and helping her. Samantha shakes her head and tells her it's her job to do that. She then asks Samantha if she is satisfied with her salary should she talk to the butler. Samantha tells her no, she is quite satisfied now. Lumina believes if she doesn't push those maids away, that's how the faction will become stronger. She is aware that if the servants are unable to approach her because of the past, they would become more and more dissatisfied, and it is obvious where that arrow would be headed. She thinks just like the seed of the crack she planted between the maids, just like the trees, she's waiting until the bud blooms. As Samantha works in the kitchen, a maid appears behind her. She reminds Samantha that she was the one who was the most cruel towards her. Isn't she ashamed of her behavior? Samantha swivels around to face her and questions when did she do something like that. The green-haired maid asks her if she doesn't remember when she let the rats loose in the lady's attic. She is quick to add that she is rude. The other maids agree and remember it was the day the young lady cried and called for her mother, but she was denied and beaten for the rest of the day. They also remember someone put ointments on her wounds then, but of course it wasn't Samantha because she would never do such a thing. Samantha's face contorts with anger. Clenching her lower lip, she suddenly grabs the green-haired maid by the hair. She asks the maid if she is finished and whether she is proud of what she said. They start blaming each other. She reminds them it's not only her fault, they also poured garbage into her room. Soon, a fight breaks out between them. Another maid rushes to the scene and calls out to catch their attention. Breathing heavily, she tells them that now is not the time for this. She reveals that the lady has fallen down the stairs. They all stop abruptly, looking shocked. The doctor who has bandaged her ankle informs Joseph she won't be able to move for a while, and if she fell from another height, it would have been a real issue, so they should make sure she's well fed. Joseph shouts at the maids, asking them what he's supposed to do with them when they did not even notice that the staircase railing is in disrepair. The maids have nothing else to say other than apologize. Her uncle then turns to Lumina, telling her she should not take these things lightly and it would be best to fire everyone here, including the butler and the personal servant. Teresa intervenes, stating that firing everyone would be an overreaction. Joseph asks her why she thinks that's an overreaction. She states because everyone here has dedicated themselves to serving the palace for years. She admits they did something wrong, but isn't it bad to cut their budget this way? Soon, they begin to argue with each other, escalating into a fight. Lumina watches with a smile, wanting them to continue the fight. Aware that regardless of who wins, one of them will be unable to achieve their desired outcome. She admits to herself. In the end, she is the one who planned all of this. It was her plan to stir up discord among the maids, and after everything she expected happened and the atmosphere became tense between the maid, she realized it was time for her next step. She had to get hurt somehow. She knew if anything happened to her while the maids were busy fighting, they would be held responsible. It wasn't hard for her to get hurt. The staircase railing in her room from her previous life was in a state of disrepair. She snaps out of her thoughts when her eyes fall on her brother, who has come to meet her. Teresa looks excited to see him. She thinks she is happy to have him by her side. But to her surprise, he completely ignores her and rushes past her to go to her sister's side, asking, "How did this happen?" She replies she fell when she was leaning over and watching the beautiful garden. Endymion suddenly demands to know what the maids were doing. She lies that she called out to them a lot, but she guesses they were busy. The maids' faces turn red from embarrassment. Endymion comments what nonsense. Teresa lets him know that's why Joseph suggested that they fire all the employees here. Teresa states she wants to hear from him as he's the homeowner. Does he think it's a good idea to fire all the employees? Endymion, however, points out, isn't she the one who got hurt? Since it's a family matter, it's only right that they follow the eldest daughter's opinion. This shocks the aunt, whose face twists in confusion. Her brother turns to her and questions what she thinks. Lumina thinks she was trying to intervene at the right time, but he saved her. She lets them know in her opinion after something like this happens and after they beat her hard on her back with a hot iron. In addition to mismanagement and negligent labor, she thinks it would be good to have a trial instead. However, she adds, given this, it seems the trial will be too much for them as well. So she decides she's going with the first option and she would rather fire everyone. Samantha steps forward, rushing toward the lady. She explains she won't get a severance package if she fires her like this, and without letters of recommendation as well. She kneels down in front of her, stating it is unfair to lose everything because of one mistake. She asks for her forgiveness. However, her eyes widen when Lumina exclaims she has shown her enough mercy. She whispers in her ear, asking her to remember all the things she did to vent her anger on her. She tells her to be grateful she is just firing her and is not breaking her back. At night, she slowly enters her brother's room. Moving around with her injured foot, she reflects on how quiet the palace is now after everyone has been fired. She would never again have to worry about being caught sneaking around. She knows Endymion did not comment much on his leg injury from the accident, but the injury hasn't healed easily, so it's worse than she thought. Since she is in pain too, she decides it would not matter much if his pain was transferred to her too. She gazes down at his sleeping form and slowly extends her hand toward him using her healing powers. She transfers his pain to herself, and her leg feels like it might break. The wound seems big to her. She convinces herself she was expecting it, so now she better bear with it so that she can live quietly from here. Suddenly, Endymion leaps forward in the bed and grabs her hand. He looks surprised to see her, and she is equally shocked. He asks her what she's doing. He rubs his eye and inquires what she is doing here. He just saw a bright light. She feigns ignorance and says, "Is that so?" Inside her mind, she's worried that he saw it. She lies to him that a mouse got out of the room and ran away, and it ended up here. Endymion reacts with alarm upon hearing her response. He suddenly grabs her with force, asking a mouse. She seems surprised and wonders if he believed her. Suddenly, her foot slips, causing her to fall to the ground. Endymion gasps. Standing up abruptly, he asks her if she's all right. She tells him she's fine, just a little lost. Can he help her? However, he asks her what did she do. She looks confused. He steps forward to her and says his leg no longer hurts. He steps forward and grabs her hand to help her up as he explains. Even though he was asleep, he saw the bright light, and when he opened his eyes, she was beside him. He asks her again what on earth did she do. She lowers her head, avoiding eye contact because she did not plan on revealing her identity right away. However, she knows she can trust him. She looks him in the eye when she confesses she believes she's a fairy. He looks confused and questions what she's talking about. Do these things even exist? She replies she thinks it's a mutation. Her abilities have only recently awakened. He tells her that is impossible. He has never heard of such a case. As she begins to transform, she tells him that is hard to believe. Suddenly her wings appear and she asks him smugly, does he still think she's not a fairy? Does it clarify? He stands there, stunned into silence. Once he recovers, he finally admits that now he understands her situation is unusual. She requests Endymion to please keep her secret and that she healed him. He exclaims he knows she doesn't have to tell him. It would be dangerous if everyone found out about her ability. She smiles, thinking as expected he's quick to understand. He has also observed it looks like she fell on purpose, and as for firing the employees, it seems like she did it to rile up their aunt. Now she's completely sure that Kid is quick-witted. He then asks her, cannot she cure herself? She reveals that it's impossible, but her recovery rate is good, so she will feel better as soon as she wakes up. He picks up the painkillers from the side table and informs her these are painkillers. He doesn't need it anymore because she cured him, so she should take them with her. She remembers that day when the maids put rats in her room and her stepmother hit her and denied her words. That day, someone secretly put an ointment on her. She wonders, could it be him? She smiles at him and takes it. Later, Endymion inspects the wound and the wound is completely gone. He believes everyone will be surprised if he gets better so quickly, so he's going to pretend to be sick for a while. He recalls how she had lied there was a mouse. He thinks her excuse was pretty weak. For some reason, he also remembers that day. He and his mother were sitting on a bench in the garden when he asked her why she had to be so strict only with his sister. He insisted that there really was a mouse in her room and to believe her for once. But his mother reminded him she had told him many times that her mother took everything that was hers. His mother admitted to him he did not care about her credibility. The point was that she enjoyed punishing her. That was when their father approached her. She stood up and stated that Lumina had to understand her original place. Endymion, however, with the ointment in his hand could not help but think that she did not take anything from his mother. So he did not understand what she had to do with this after all, and did they have to take everything from her? He is also surprised about how she did not hesitate and told him she's a fairy and how she healed his leg. He recalls her words that he is the only family she has left in the world, so she decided not to hate him. His eyes flicker with sadness as he thinks no, his sister has the right to hate him. The next day, Joseph is singing cheerfully and seems happy, thinking it feels as though the whole world's lights are shining on him. He walks up to Lumina's door and knocks. Lumina opens the door so quickly that it hits him in the nose. He grabs his nose in pain, and she asks him what he's doing so early in the morning. He replies he wanted to tell her something and questions, isn't it uncomfortable without maids to take care of her? He adds, with that in mind, he thought he would give her some suggestions. However, she doesn't bother responding to his question and announces she wants to go out today. She tells him she's going to meet the Duke. He is quick to say in that case he will be her guardian, but she tells him no. He tells her to go together. Again she rejects him, saying she doesn't want to. He looks perplexed and questions, is there a reason for her rejection? She tells him the Duke just wants her, and he will think she's a coward if she ends up going with him. The Duke hates cowards and liars, so what if he suddenly revokes his guardianship of her? That is why she is going alone. Dejected, he tells her to have a nice trip and turns to leave. She thinks actually she has another reason not to take him with her. She wanted to talk to her brother, but she did not expect to meet the uncle in the morning. However, she realizes Endymion slept late last night, so she guesses he's still asleep. To her surprise, Endymion is already standing near the carriage when she reaches it. She thinks she thought he was sleeping, but he was here before her. He asks her if she's planning to go to the Hard Duchy. She smiles at him and informs him she won't be back for a few days, so he doesn't need to worry. When he remains quiet, she adds it might be sudden, but has he ever thought about attending an academy? She believes while she works towards the future Endymion needs a comfortable place to hide. Quickly, he replies he understands. She is surprised. She points out he is answering too quickly, isn't he? He counters, doesn't actually want him to attend the academy. If that's what she wants, then of course he will do it. She clarifies, just in case if he's wondering, it's just a suggestion, and she will respect his opinion. He simply replies he sees and excuses to leave. She seems confused by his behavior and wonders if Endymion is misunderstanding that she's trying to drive him away. On her way to the duchy in the carriage, she cannot help but wonder, isn't it better to be a better sister than a bad one? She recalls when she confessed to her brother that she will try to be a good sister to him. He told her there is no need for that. It might be just a burden to her. She thinks it was the same attitude. He usually follows her opinion well, but something seems off. Is it because she suddenly changed? She jolts out of her thoughts when she is informed she has arrived at the Hard Duchy. Getting out of the carriage, she reminds herself there is no time to stay depressed over Endymion's affair because this is more urgent. The Duke is already present there to welcome her. She looks at him and thinks he's the only lifeline to protect them from their uncle and aunt. She greets him and thinks he still looks intimidating and still wears those glasses that she's not used to. His gaze falls on her injured leg, and he questions what's wrong with her leg. Surprised that he noticed it. She wonders, was it too obvious? She thought it would go over easily. She responds she just twisted it by mistake, it's nothing. He looks like he doesn't believe her, but doesn't press her anymore. Suddenly, he lifts her into his arms. He questions why she has to walk all this way here despite her twisted leg. She's doing something unnecessary. He takes her to the living room and places her on the sofa. She is speechless. Once she recovers from her shock, she asks herself, wait, what just happened? The Duke orders the maid to bring some refreshments. There's a box in her hand. He asks her what is it. She exclaims, smiling, it is a gift. She reminds him she has mentioned she would give him a gift last time. It's a dessert she made herself, and it should be delicious. He narrows his eyes at her and comments she's bringing her own food. Did she think he wouldn't treat his guest? She is freaking out inside, but outside she keeps a smile on her face and is composed. She tells him no, this is something she especially likes, and it's also a return for the gift. She looks at him with her baby eyes, guessing maybe he doesn't like it, but it is said that eating together is tastier than eating alone. He wonders if she is saying she wants to eat with him. She lets him know there's a portion for him too, won't he take it? His response is probably. That gets her attention. She says, is that so? Then she will set aside a portion for him, and it would be a waste to throw it away. She looks at him with puppy eyes, saying if he's not going to eat it, Then she guesses there's no other choice, but he interjects, ordering the butler to prepare a separate plate for the cake. She adds 2 plates please, and also orders some tea that suits it. The Duke thinks she's stubborn as ever. There's a small smile tugging on his lips as he thinks a legion is legion after all. After a while, the cake arrives, along with other sweets and tea on the table. Lumina is enjoying eating her cake, but her eyes are fixed on the Duke as he's acting like he won't eat much, but he is enjoying it too. She believes indeed there is nothing better than food to lighten the mood. She then says she was planning to bring a cake made by the chef of the family, but lately it seemed to be going through some difficulties. He appears surprised and asks what difficulties. However, Lumina is not stupid. She knows even though he's acting like he doesn't know a thing, he knows everything. He has been keeping an eye on their family affairs. Still, she responds to him that all the servants were fired due to their negligence, so they are in the process of hiring new staff and things are a bit chaotic. She asks him, could he possibly recommend someone? It would be perfect if they meet his standards. He lets her know it is not a difficult request for him. Lumina is relieved, since Joseph now won't be making a fuss about bringing in his own people. She then changes the topic and questions if the young Duke is at the mansion. She was planning to start treatment today. Has he stepped out? He replies no, he's in his room. She exclaims she's lucky that he is here as she couldn't meet him earlier. An unusual sadness comes over the Duke's face as he reveals his condition isn't great, but does she want to see him? The Duke adds he is still recovering from his outburst, so he needs some rest. His eyes widen in surprise when she announces to leave him to her, since he thought she might refuse because it's scary. But to his shock, she smiles brightly at him and declares it's her specialty.